My name Yes.
Aloha.
Good morning.
Yes.
I'm Stardust.
And I'm MadCatMelody.
And you are tuned into Pragma Pod, the all things anime podcast, presented by Pragmatic Aleatory.
Yes. In the previous episode of Pragma Pod, we discussed episodes 1 to 5 of Steins Gate. For episode 2, we'll be discussing episodes 5 to 10.
So, I know last week when we discussed it, I did not have a lot to say that was positive. I have a couple things that are positive to say now.
Do we want to save the positive stuff for the end?
Yes, whenever, man. Whenever I'm feeling the urge. But
okay, yeah.
Are you feeling the urge right now? Is it positive time now?
Yeah, because I don't have a lot to say that's positive, so I'm just going to say it.
May as well just get it out of the way right away.
So a lot of the insert music is not that great, but there were about 3 tracks that were really good. One of them reminded me of the nighttime harbor music in Shenmue. Anybody that's played Shenmue, they'll know what I'm talking about. There was also a piano piece, and I believe it was episode 6 that played.
Oh yes, I liked it.
Yeah, that was a nice little piece. And then the preview insert theme for episode 6, I believe, was also pretty good. What else did I want to say? I like the references that they made in episode 6. They referenced Tokyo Kakeru Shoujo. They referenced G Gundam. He calls the one girl Shining Finger. That's a G Gundam reference. And they also referenced Back to the Future. And that's it.
Really, when was that?
That was also in episode 6. That was all in that one small scene.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I remember now. Okay.
Yeah, I don't, that's it. So you guys take it away.
Well,
Like the references.
Yeah, and some of the music. It's weird because I was like, wow, they really got better with their music because you regurgitate the same themes, right? You're not gonna have a different insert song every episode. That's a waste of time, a waste of money, and a waste of assets, right? So you're gonna use the same songs over and over for the same scenes to get that tone, and most of them are bad, but these were really good. And I don't think I heard them before in the other episodes, and maybe I just didn't notice them. I was like, wow, this is going places. And then the next episode starts, and it's just like, oh, no, it's not.
It did not go anywhere. In fact, that train never left the station. I actually have a question for you guys.
Go for it.
So do you guys remember the cliffhanger that episode 5 left off at, where they were moving the computer?
Yes.
Yeah, that nail-biting cliffhanger.
Yes, the nail-biting cliffhanger where they were moving the computer, taking 2 of them to carry it. As it turns out, they actually picked up at episode 6 in that exact same place.
I do like when they do that, though.
I don't know that we needed to know that they actually kept carrying it. I just thought that was a given, but I'm like, man, they resolved that cliffhanger really well.
On the next episode of Steins Gate. Yeah.
They moved it.
Yeah, man.
Were you expecting a relationship or like a romantic moment?
There's a couple of times in the series where Ocarine or Hoenn is with one of the girls and they kind of have a moment that's just sweet, you know, and they're like, oh, you can be sweet. No, this is sweet. And it always comes out of nowhere for me. I'm like, I didn't know.
Exactly. It was with Makise, that redheaded girl. Yeah, I feel like there's some sort of chemistry going on there, but it's almost like it's there, but it's also not there. So I don't know what to think. What do you think?
They're definitely trying to set up the classic, like, oh, these two bicker and as if they hate each other because there's tension, you know, sexual tension kind of feeling there.
Right.
Yeah, but did you feel like it felt natural?
No.
Yeah.
No, it seems really random. Like they could have inserted any character whatsoever and then had like a cute moment.
It feels like they had a plot device that they didn't write for, and then they just decided to throw it in within 6 minutes. It kind of reminded me of Man of Steel, where one of my very few criticisms of Man of Steel was the romance between Clark and Lois. There was no reason for them to really like fall in love like that.
She did save his life shirtless. So
I mean, that's a reason.
In the heat of the moment, emotions can flare up, I think, you know.
Especially if you're shirtless, you know. These are lessons for life.
If Henry Cavill is shirtless, like not everybody shirtless is equal, right?
I mean, that's a fair point, actually.
I think I'm equal to Henry Cavill. I can't even say that.
I mean, we can all say that. I can say that too.
You could say that, but I mean, if we have a podcast where we don't show our faces, I feel like
Yeah, no one's gonna
if we all
actually
look like
know
Henry
to say
Cavill, we
anything.
would have a YouTube video.
You just have to trust me. Just trust me that I'm better looking than Henry Cavill, and trust me that Steins Gate is one of the best animes you will ever watch. It's no lie.
To go back to Makise, the redheaded chick, there are
Mhm.
scenes where she's like the main character's talking about his plans for the time travel and stuff, and we're gonna do this, and he has theories, and she'll be riffing off of him. She'll be like, "Oh yeah, maybe we should do this and maybe that," and then she'll stop herself. She's like, "Not that I take you seriously at all," and I'm like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why are you wasting your breath on this? You have time
What?
travel in front of you."
Like, why is she even there if she doesn't believe in it? It's very bizarre. Like, she's like, I want to disprove all of your theories, but
Yeah,
actually, I just kind of want to hang out because I think you're like weird.
yeah. I want to remind you I hate you, but can
Yeah,
I
yeah,
come
like
over
that.
again tomorrow?
Yeah, they should probably just get it on.
Well, she is a tsundere.
Oh.
Do you guys know the name of the enemy in this story?
It is CERN.
Isn't it Steins Gate? Isn't that the enemy?
Is it? No. Isn't it the corporation CERNs?
Well, CERN is the corporation, but I mean, yeah, maybe.
I posed
But
the
still-
question because the story's written terribly, and I
Yeah.
knew there would be confusion over
Ooh, so
who was the
good.
enemy. Because
Got
when I
us.
was watching these episodes, I was like, "This isn't written well." I'm not gonna say, "Oh, this is bad," and just leave it at that, because I hate when people do that. I'm gonna give a reason why I don't think this is good. And mind you, we've
It's a
now
lot.
watched 10
A lot
episodes.
of our life has been
10
dedicated
episodes.
to this, and I don't know that it should have been.
Yeah,
Well,
it's-
I do think I mentioned last time the possibility that he's the enemy, right? Okiri, and this is all like something happening in his head, kind of like in Fight Club, how
Yeah.
he ordained things to
I
happen
really
while
like
he's
this
not
theory. I
noticing.
really hope
right?
that is
Mhm.
like the mind-blowing phenomenon that is happening.
Well, that came back to me because Makise asks him, like, "You're not pulling our leg, are you?" And he hesitates to answer. Right? He's like,
Yeah.
he recognizes, like, there's a possibility I'm crazy, you know? And he's trying to assess that. How would I be able to tell? And you wouldn't, because it's time travel, right? Because so you could get to the last episode of the series and there's only one change to the timeline and it's not a real change. And everything else, all these episodes could just be in his head leading up to the story that he tells them. You know, because they're just following. Every once in a while, it seems like every other day, he's like, "Oh, we just changed something," and they're like, "Oh, really?" You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they
it's
don't
true.
actually see anything.
I feel like I felt this way a lot, where everyone's brief interactions, I feel like they almost run parallel to any kind of plot that's happening. And rather than a fully integrated story, it's just like every character just being as one-dimensional as possible and a perfect stereotype of how they were written. And like it doesn't have anything to do with the actual story. It's just them being a very one-dimensional character.
I appreciate that.
I remember you mentioned how it was a visual novel, right?
Yeah.
So I've been watching the
You
show.
can tell. You can tell.
I've been watching the show as if I'm playing the visual novel, and I'm imagining, like, if they allow you to talk to anybody at any time, then they can't have stories that intersect necessarily. I mean, they could
You
with
said
better
it.
writing, but if everybody is separate, then you can talk to everybody, and it doesn't affect everybody else because everybody's stories are just random.
That's a good point, actually. I could see that.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand it.
So if he talks to the part-timer, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she's got something going on with her dad, and she's got this thing that has nothing to do with CERN or Steins Gate or anybody else in the thing,
Mhm.
then I could imagine playing the game and talking to her after Makise or talking to her before Makise, and it doesn't actually break the story because those two characters don't actually interact. Like, them interacting has nothing
And
to
that
do
was
with the
very,
plot.
very random. And I was
so
actually I thought
yeah.
it was actually good. But then it went nowhere and connected to nothing at all.
Yeah, because he keeps undoing everything.
Maybe that's the genius and we just don't realize it.
Do you like still have a lot of interest in what's to come?
I have a passing interest in seeing how it ends because it has an end. Somebody decided there was an ending to the story.
You're doing what I did with Bleach, which is like, I've been watching this since I was a kid. I might as well finish the
Well,
manga.
how was the end of Bleach?
Bleach got really bad. It got really bad. And there's a lot of reasons why it got bad. And that's a whole nother topic.
Well, because I get the feeling that this is the kind of thing, like when I watch stuff with people, when I put something on, one of the first question they tend to ask is like, is this a show or is it a movie? And the idea is that if it's a movie, it'll have an end, you know? But if it's a show, I might just be resigning myself to an unknown amount of time of my life for the future, right? But this...
You got to look at the episode count.
Yeah, but if you're watching something like Game of Thrones, that's a bad example.
Which is why I'm not.
If you're watching something, say, based off a book, right? Like His Dark Materials, then you know the books have an ending, right? Some author came by and they were like, this is the beginning of the story, this is the middle, this is the end. So even though it's longer than a movie, you know it has an ending, and that can give some comfort.
Steins Gate was very successful. I had movies, and I have no problems with people liking something that I don't enjoy. I'm not going to say I hate Steins Gate as a series because I haven't finished it.
Right.
However, after these 10 episodes, I am scratching my head trying to understand why it got so much critical acclaim.
Yeah, I'm very confused, and I would like to know.
I was reading about Steins Gate, about how people felt about it, and someone was like, oh, well, it's a slow burn. And I'm like, listen, I'm a huge fan of slow burns, right?
Yeah, much more than me.
But when you do a slow burn, it has to be good. All of the aspects that make up a film or an anime or a manga or a novel, it has to be good. It has to have your attention. You have to be intrigued. And maybe those people clearly they were. But for me, it's not there, man. It's just not. I want you guys to talk about what you enjoyed.
Okay, well, I liked episode 7. I thought it was the coolest one. I feel like we were finding more about, I think that was Bike Shop Girl, the part-timer girl. Or no, wait, was that it? Anyway, I liked this episode.
Okay. They did seem the smartest
okay,
in
like
that
it seemed like there was
episode.
more going on. Like there's evidence of goo people like not surviving time travel from the evil corporation, the Steins, and so that I guess that was sort of exciting. Like, oh, okay, like they're doing experiments with people, and like now they're goo people, and like they don't survive. And I'm like, yeah, that's disgusting.
Is that why you think CERN is the bad guys? Is because some of their test subjects
Yeah, because
died?
they're obviously doing tests on humans, and they know that they're not able to survive.
Do you think those people, the test subjects, were taken against their will? They were probably...
No, probably not. I just feel like,
right?
there is some ethical problems with that. Just,
it's like astronauts on the Challenger or something.
Maybe. I can see your point there. I do like that the stalker girl, that's what I'm calling her, I don't know her name. That stalker girl who's always on her phone and can't talk, and she has to text our main scientist guy.
Oh yeah, Silver.
Yes, Shining Finger, yes.
That's the G Gundam reference.
Oh, okay. I missed that one.
He was just basking in that.
Her name is Moeka.
It's not as cool as Shining Finger.
No, it's not.
And the reason I can remember her name so clearly is because it's like Moesha, the show.
I do love that show.
And she looks just like Moesha.
So much resemblance.
I like Moeka's design and promotional material.
I could see that.
How is it different?
Quality. The quality in the animation in Steins Gate is just not there. Especially like in episodes 6 and 7 and 8. There were so many scenes where the main character's eyeballs were different sizes. Somebody's eye was drooping. And the camera, they weren't in the background, it was just right on them. It was a thing. There's so many scenes where it shows him standing and he does this like dynamic pose. And one of his arms is extremely thinner than the other. And I was just like, bro, what's going on here?
That is a good question.
I notice that about myself sometimes.
Your eyeballs are in the wrong place. That is an affliction.
Like sometimes I'll survive.
Yeah, you get a problem, buddy. You know when a show, I mean, obviously you can usually tell when a show has a phenomenal quality. Like what's in the promotional material is what they wish that the show could look like. So when it actually is like that, it's excellent. A good example of that is Violet Evergarden.
Beautiful.
That show is gorgeous.
On all accounts.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And Hanasaku Iroha, it's gorgeous. So that's what I mean. Like you can tell in the promotional sense, Steins Gate usually looks good. But when you're watching the actual anime,
What the hell is going
the
on?
animation is largely inconsistent. Yeah, it's very inconsistent.
Oh, I did like his dream that he had where like he was really freaked out by the goo people, like they were like out to get him or something. Like he's really afraid of them.
Are you talking about when he was like, was that when he was in the universe? Or it was like this
Yeah,
galaxy moment or
like he had
whatever?
this dream about like space and time changing completely. I thought this was a cool
Mm.
visual thing going on here. Actually added a bit of depth to his character. I'm like, oh, he fears things. This is, good.
I liked that scene. I don't think it added depth to his character, but I enjoyed that scene. When I watched that scene, I was like, oh yeah, that's where the budget went towards. That 5 seconds.
I'm
I don't know
thinking
what they did with the rest of the money.
I'm thinking about Final Fantasy, and I remember a lot of promotional images and covers of Final Fantasy that is so stylized, elongated, like fairy-like long-haired figures of the main characters in that looked so drastically different. And if they weren't wearing the same colored clothes, I wouldn't recognize that, oh, this character is supposed to be that character. And I always wondered, like, is that what they wished they could do with video game graphics, is make this kind of ethereal
So
art?
you're talking about Yoshitake Yamano's artwork for Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
how they have like all the characters are like really effeminate looking.
Yeah.
So he did the original artwork for the original games, and it became this trademark logo. So those characters drawn in that style, the characters are always going to look different in game from that style. They could totally make them look reminiscent of that, or like somewhat near it, but that's more of a like a logo.
Mm.
So you're always going to see characters that look different in each game because it's different directors and stuff, but they're all, for the logo, they're always going to have that.
Mm.
So to answer your question, no, they don't want the characters in game to look like that, but they totally could. It just would be an engine overhaul, and it will look completely different.
Mm.
So to go back to Moeka, that was her name, right?
No, it's Moesha.
Shining finger.
There, I think it was episode 8 or 7. It was one of those.
Yeah.
And I really noticed I was enjoying the second time around more than the first time around. Her like calling thing where he's trying to give a briefing and talk to his people. And every time he says something, you hear that like ding, ding,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a critique of what he's saying. Like he says something and then it's like, no, that garners some questions. And so you hear it. And I found myself laughing at that. That's something I did like, is that's her character.
Yes, that is funny. I do like, for some reason, I do kind of like her element. I feel like she's been damaged in some way psychologically, but I don't know if it was just, it's just part of who she is, or if it was from all of this time travel nonsense and like she knows something that we don't know. But it seems like she does. Like, I want to know what happened to her and like why is she so secretive and why can't she talk really? Why does she have to text?
Yeah, the damaged thing, definitely, I get that sense, which is weird for me because I've been thinking, and Kip kind of put this in my head a little bit, that there's the possibility anybody could be evil, right? Anybody could be the evil agent, right? But so I'm thinking, if I was thinking like him, like a mad scientist kind of guy, I would probably surround myself with people that were psychologically damaged, because those are the people least likely to be sent by some super spy agency, right?
That's a good point.
A super spy agency would, they'd send like some super awesome, attractive, charismatic person, right?
There's none of those, so if you have sure.
If you have somebody who's like dysfunctional, then it's like, oh, that's probably not a spy. You can hang out with me. I trust you.
Yeah, exactly. What's the other girl's name? Is his childhood friend? Like, she has zero purpose. She's like, why is she there? She doesn't do anything.
She makes everybody happy. She's like Michelangelo. Michelangelo probably isn't that good of a ninja.
Yeah, actually, he was my favorite, just because he was always so nice to everyone.
Yeah, he's the heart of the group.
Yeah.
I think the entire cast has a purpose. I just think they had a purpose in the visual novel. And I think the visual novel, I never played it, but I have a feeling that it's a lot better than this, and I think it's not translating well into an anime.
Yes.
You can't just take a book and make it a movie. You can't just take a book and make it a show. You can't just take a manga and make it like, well, manga sometimes you can, but like depending on the topic matter or the subject of the manga. But you have to take liberties and you have to translate it because it's a different form of media. And as of right now, I don't think the translation is successful. Like, Melody, you brought up a film. You were talking about a film. And when you were talking, I was like, man, I'm glad Science-Gate, well, it actually does have movies, but in my head at the time, I was like, man, I'm glad it's not a movie because this just would have been a jumbled mess.
It is a jumbled mess.
And when I say that, I usually think it should probably be a series. But as a series, the first 10 episodes is a jumbled mess. So this just makes me think that it didn't handle the source material well. And a lot of, like I said, I was reading comments and they were like, it's a slow burn, man. And I'm like, okay,
So
20-something episodes, 10 episodes in, I don't know if the payoff is going to make the anime a good series overall.
So what are what would you say you think some of the purposes of these characters are that you don't see in the show?
I just think their backstories are integrated more, and they're probably a lot more well-rounded in the visual novel. It's like they have these plot lines that are occasionally appearing and the characters aren't affected by them. Like they say they are, but the way that the writing is and everything is like, oh, I'm looking for my long lost sibling. Look at me and my cheery demeanor. But listen to this sad music in the background. It's just not...
Like you could literally insert any other plot and like it would still make the same amount of sense.
Exactly, because they're not affected by what's going on. I guess the time travel and the erasure and all of that, but this does not count. I was thinking about the girl that like is the part-timer that calls herself like a soldier or whatever. Like that scene, the concept of the storyline, that personal story was interesting, but the execution was terrible.
I think to me that's a common thing I feel like I'm used to seeing, where it's like, oh, I have this tragic backstory and it's so sad, but I'm gonna go catch the day. See ya. I feel like that's a common thing to try and exaggerate how in real life people tend not to show what they're really going through inside, and it's unrealistic. And it's hard to relate to. But at the same time, I feel like I understand where it's coming from. You know, she's learned to put on this face, kind of like how in the Dark Knight Rises movie, how he's talking about how John Blake talks about Bruce Wayne and how he's always smiling to everybody, but he knew that was a fake smile because that was his fake smile because he was an orphan too. And he recognized that people don't want to hear about your sad, dead parents. So he just learned to put on a fake smile his entire life. And so he recognized that fake smile, you know?
Right. Kip, do you want to hear interesting comments from Funimation, the platform that I'm currently watching this Fast and Exciting anime on? I captured 3 comments from Funimation about this series on episode 7. And I did. People have said this. And I'd like to point out there were a total of maybe like 8 comments, but they were stupid. So I only captured 3 of them. You know, like some like this is
so
great.
If you don't hear one of your comments, she's saying you're stupid.
Yeah, basically. Sorry, I just I had to say it if it's out there. If your comment is literally wow with a bunch of exclamation points and a smiley, it's stupid. I'm sorry. It doesn't help.
Oh, that was me.
You have to actually say would it have been wow though? I feel like would it have been something like a different one, like one word?
I like to keep mine ambiguous.
Oh, okay. All right. So one of the comments, this is the most interesting anime I have ever seen! Exclamation point.
Because they just got done watching Dragon Ball Z. I'm sorry. Go on, keep reading.
The second one, the second comment from Funimation, to all the people who waited 6 episodes when it was kind of boring, this is where it gets good, my friends.
Okay. What?
Oh, perfect. We're in it then.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, let's go then. All right, I'm ready. And then the third one that I recorded in the last one is, why haven't they all been fried working with an open microwave? And I was like, that's a good one.
They keep killing themselves from other timelines and then moving into new. Yeah.
What emotions has it elicited from you so far?
Curiosity.
Of those that it elicited.
It squeezed out of me. Of the emotions that were squeezed out of me.
What emotions did you retain up to date?
Yeah, not much. The feelings are forgettable.
Wow, I did not expect that answer from you. I always count on you to be, you're the dude that's in the anime that's like, we gotta pull it together. We gotta make it out of here.
I'm recognizing that it's a good question.
And I'm the dude that's like, We're dead. We're dead.
Well, no, some people watch shows to not to turn their brain on, but to turn their brain off, right?
Mhm.
So I think a lot of people might watch this show because they're like, oh, it's kind of cute. This girl, does weird noises and this girl texts everything. And I'm just going to watch cute girls doing weird stuff for 30 minutes.
Plus, there's like cute maid cafe girls, so there's that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure the creators want you to necessarily do that.
No, I don't think so either. I legitimately did not remember a lot of these episodes, like feeling wise.
It's weird.
Yeah, just because it's so like you said, it's so fragmented, and like I remember the characters because they have zero depth and they're very like they just are what they are all the time anyway. So that is a problem.
All right, so in episode 7, you have all of these like dramatic Dutch angle shots. Do you guys know what that is?
I do not. Please.
Okay.
Why Dutch?
Oh.
It's like the camera's tilted at an angle and it puts an emphasis and amplifies whatever tone the scene is setting or whatever state that the character is in, right? So if you just realize, oh, everything is a lie, the camera turns aside and it goes in on your face and you look, whoa, right? That's the Dutch angle. So in episode 7, it has all these Dutch angles and other camera shots, and then each time the intense music kicks in, right? Because you want to have the music set the tone, right? There's nothing in this series that's like subtle nuance, right? Literally nothing. From character archetypes to the score, to the camera angles, to the dialogue, plot, the overall writing, everything is so heavy-handed and forced, and nothing seems to integrate seamlessly. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, One Punch Man, those are some other anime that's also not very subtle at all. Yet it feels well integrated and natural.
Right.
Characters act natural and are integrated in their environment, and they seem to fit. I get the idea that the production staff knows, and I'm speaking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and One Punch Man, I get the idea when I'm watching it that the production staff knows, hey, we want to be over the top, we want to be super silly, but we're going to do it with style, and we're going to do it with flair, and we're going to do it with cohesiveness, right? I don't get any of that with Steins Gate. The only emotion that it elicits for me is just dread. I'm not even trying to be like over. I'm like being so serious. Like episodes 1 to 5, we have an annoying lead with a lackluster, one-dimensional supporting cast, right? Episodes 6 to 10, we have an annoying lead with a lackluster, one-dimensional supporting cast. The only thing that changed was they decided to cue more dramatic music to set the tone that the writing fails to set every single time. The writing never makes me feel sad. I never feel pumped for something. I'm never excited. I'm never happy. The music is always changing the tone because the writing can't. I have no problem with the slow burn for a story. Seriously, I seriously don't. As a matter of fact, I usually love it. However,
I think that is your type.
Yeah, in order to keep the interest train going, all of the aspects of the art form need to be done really well. Otherwise, you're going to be like, yo, this is whack. Dragon Ball Z does not have an amazing storyline. It does not. But it's got cool looking characters, and it's got cool fight scenes that are choreographed really well. The same with Naruto. Shingeki no Kyojin, specifically the manga, aka Attack on Titan, is very ugly. That art for the manga is very ugly. The mangaka even said, he was like, yeah, I know, I can't draw that good. It's gotten better, but it's still ugly. And when you look at the anime, you would probably think, oh, this is beautiful. It's because it is. But he's not doing, not drawn for the anime. So it's a really ugly manga, but the storyline and the writing is super intriguing, and so are the characters. Prison School has pervy humor, which I am usually not a fan of. Not because it's pervy humor, but because a lot of times what's called pervy humor is just literally like softcore porn.
2 hours later.
And that's whack to me. But the pacing for Prison School and delivery is excellent, to the point where it became one of my favorite comedies for anime. I think I like cracked a grin like once or twice in the 2.5 hours that I spent watching episodes 6 to 10. Like that's if you like really break down the time, that's not good. You have characters disappearing, and you have the past being revamped, and all these things sound so exciting, right? Yet nothing is exciting because the material is so underwhelming.
Yeah, it didn't even win the lottery.
I know people worked hard on this, so I don't want to like say, "Oh, they suck," because nobody sucks.
I think some people suck.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, I did like to bring it up a little
bring
bit
it
from that descending wave of
Undo just
sadness.
everything he just said.
Listen, I'm not a magician. Okay, I actually do agree with a lot of those things, but I did like when John Teeter came back into the scene, because I guess it's a mysterious character, like we don't know who it is. So, and he's like this mysterious internet forum guy, and I was like, oh well, he'll finally have answers for our main character, our main scientist Okabe, but he has zero answers for how Okabe can remember past timelines. It's like, I don't know, you just can't, I guess.
It's probably because you're the chosen one.
Yeah, and like he might be the 1% that can save the future. I'm like,
you don't sound like a scientist at all.
Yeah, I was like, I just thought that was like really thrown in. It's almost like his own ego is talking to him.
Yeah.
Does anyone feel that way?
I think John Titor is him from the future. Like later on, John Titor's name gets changed, which makes sense if he was like, if you changed for a timeline before he was born, but also makes sense if he just made up the name.
Right.
Isn't Soldier Girl's father name also Titor or whatever? Just like a different.
Yeah, it was different. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I was hoping." I'm like, because for a moment I was like, "Oh, breakthrough! That's amazing."
Yeah,
how does this connect? And then it didn't. It didn't at all. That would have been really interesting, actually. Also, can we just talk about the fact that this is really weird, and I'm not even trans, but I don't know how I feel about this.
Ooh,
and
I'm so excited.
You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm mildly offended just from the whole thing, and I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm like, I feel like this is wrong, but I can't even explain why. It's just wrong. And in so many ways, I'm like, this beautiful cross-dresser boy who we've realized was a boy, before, because he's like, he is the most beautiful creature ever, but I think he's the most beautiful girl ever, but actually he's a guy. And, that was interesting. Okay, we have this interesting trans character or cross-dressing character in the beginning. And so it just got really, really stupid, like suddenly. And I was like, just the amount of ridiculousness about how they want to go back in time and text his mother to eat more salad so he'll be born a girl. I'm like, what the holy? What?
Well, it was smart for a little bit because he's talking to the hacker and he's like, don't worry, that doesn't make any sense. Some wives' tale isn't going to make any difference. If it makes him feel better, we'll just do it. And then he changes the timeline, and then he's like, well, I can't ask her, if she changed, so I'll just leave it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and I'm like, no, you can. I'm like, I really need to know. Yeah. Like, did it work? Did it not work?
You're a scientist. You're not gonna.
None of this makes any sense.
Not only is he not gonna, he's like, I can't ask her. That would be inappropriate. But later, he's just gonna grab, her little.
Yeah, he just grabbed her, and I'm just like, but you can feel her up, and that's okay.
Don't get mad at me, people.
Ooh, so excited again.
I'm already mad at you. Like, you just like poo-pooed all over their favorite show.
I don't care. Speaking in regards to that situation, I feel like I spoke about this before at some point. When Japan decides to have a subject matter that are along the lines of that, that can really make for a good story. Mm-hmm. And they don't do a good story for it. That whole part, it could have been something profound. It could have been maybe an emotional moment.
Yeah.
It could have been something.
So many things.
It wasn't any of it.
No, it was just him like groping a girl that always was a girl.
I get it's a show, and I have no problems with sexual humor, but there was no reason for that to be there. Speaking about that scene, if you go back and watch, literally almost every female character at some point in the episode, once or twice, is going to be bitten down and a butt shot showing, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I was laughing, not at that, but I was laughing because I was like, what if they treated male characters how they treat female characters?
It would honestly be hilarious.
It would, but they don't. And that's not an issue with Steins Gate. That's an anime issue in general. It's just this constant sexualization and a reduction of a character, again, because your writing isn't good enough.
Seriously.
And again, that's not just a problem with Steins Gate.
That's a whole other like podcast, I feel, honestly.
I remember a while back how Miyazaki did an interview and he was like, anime is terrible. And I was like, what? I can't call him an idiot, right? Because
How dare you?
like he's clearly he's not.
That's why he has to use his voice, because you can't call him an idiot. He's the one person.
He's responsible for a lot of excellent work.
Mhm.
I didn't get what he meant, but I noticed as I got older, I'm starting to understand it. Like there are literally animes that are just a whole bunch of boobs, and he wasn't even just speaking about it. He's speaking about a lot of stuff. He's just speaking about a lack of effort and laziness.
He had just watched Steins Gate.
I hope he didn't. I still agree with him on some stuff, and some stuff I don't. But anyways, that's that. Go ahead.
So I have a couple things to say about a couple of things that you guys said. One, about the what if they treated men the same way that they treat women, right? Made me think of the Avengers. Not just because they had the campaign of like the cover of the Avengers where they switched it around so that all the Avengers are posing similarly to Black Widow, where they find ways to show their butt. Aside from that, because that was like a whole, and it was called the Hawkeye Project, I think, because Hawkeye, they started doing Hawkeye comic covers where he was like showing his butt or whatever, and he was like in girl poses. But that was, aside from that, there's always been a tradition in superhero movies where the guy always has to have his shirt off at some point, right? And even in like iRobot, which is kind of a superhero movie, he's got a cybernetic arm, but they had to have that shower scene with Will Smith, even though it has nothing to do with anything, right?
He was excited for that. I remember him talking about that in an interview. He was like, I worked out.
Of course you would be, because the guy that plays Falcon is like, oh, I hate my costume because you don't actually get to see my chest, right? But the guy who plays Thor, Hemsworth, he was like, oh, he's getting tired of showing his abs and his chest in movies because it's like, my eyes are up here or whatever, right? And it reminds me of...
Did they actually say that?
Well, he didn't say my eyes are up here, but he said he doesn't want to take off his shirt from now on in movies, he said, right?
Oh, really?
And if I look at the first Thor movie, like he's very much shown, I think, as similarly to big dumb eye candy as you would see in other movies, right? And it's not necessarily bad. Like I can appreciate he's the dumb one on the team. That's his character, right? And if I look at superheroes, I think the reason people have gravitated to the Marvel superheroes is not necessarily because they have deep characters, because a lot of the X-Men have deep like histories and characters, but they were never as popular as the Avengers. And if I'm asking myself why? Because the Avengers all have these specific non-subtle quirks or perspectives about the world that you can go to for laughs at any point in time, whether it's a sad scene or an angry scene or whatever. It'll be like, oh, he's from 1940s, he doesn't get that, ha ha ha, right? And I see that in Steins Gate, and that's what my theory is that people fall in love with Steins Gate because it doesn't have, you're right, it doesn't have the good action, it doesn't have deep character moments or all this stuff, but each character does have their own little Avengers-like quirk, right? And specifically about the scene that you brought up, the grabbing of the scene, and the
girl or guy.
Yeah, what I thought could be interesting about that scene is that the only one who physically like stands up and defends Ruka is the girl who's kind of from America, right? And all these other girls,
right.
Yeah, all these other girls have kind of just been around this so often that they don't actually get up and do anything. And so it kind of made me...
Which is kind of sad.
It's kind of sad, but I mean, it kind of made me a little like... I'm used to looking at Americans in cartoons and movies and being like, haha, that's funny, because a lot of like international cartoons I'll see make fun of Americans. And I can have fun with that.
As they should.
Yeah, that can be funny. But here, because it's in character, like in, I think...
Yeah.
I think it was the Triplets of Belleville. They had like, when they first get to America, they show all these Americans supposedly, and they all have huge teeth. And there's one that just says cheeseburger is the whole line of everybody, and it's like, okay, yeah, cool. That's in character, but also being violent, in this kind of scene when all these other people are just being passive and trying not to, make a scene. That's also very American, but it's like the same character trait, but on the positive side, maybe.
Yeah, that's actually true. That's actually a really good point. Okay, we're gonna score 1 for Steins Gate on that one. That's actually like a good point.
Nah, fuck that.
You gotta have it. You gotta give credit where credit's due, man.
You do. And credit is not due.
It's not due.
Aside from that, frankly, I think we're over all these characters unless they actually do something. Like they have to actually do something interesting.
I think something's gonna happen.
You think something's gonna happen? That's already. Thank you. I feel better now.
I want so bad, like by the end of this, to be like, I was wrong. I can't believe they did it.
It would be quite a feat to pull off at this point. I mean, like the first 5 hours, like whatever. But like at this point, I'd be really surprised if they pulled it all together.
Well, we're past the third way. There's 24 episodes. You said, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So
He sounded really sad when he said that.
I am, dude. You don't understand. I'm about to call you out again. I called you out last week. I'm gonna do it again. You, Stardust.
What?
Before we talked earlier in the day, I was like, oh, I'm about to watch these episodes, all 5. Again, here we go. And you were not even again, because I watched them all today twice. And you were like, it's better.
Honestly, it is better than it was. I mean, they moved the TV, for God's sake.
They got the thing up the stairs.
Also, they got 2 more gadgets. They don't actually do anything but make a mess and trip a circuit breaker, but they got 2 more.
It was better. It was better. I don't need Steins Gate to be phenomenal. I don't need it to really get my brain going like Ghost in the Shell. I just need it to be okay at something. That's all I want. I don't feel like that's asking a lot. And I believe by the end of the series, no, I don't. I hope by the end of the series that it will be okay at one category. I don't know.
You guys want to know my favorite part? So Okabe, our main scientist, gets a text at the end with someone saying, watching you, and then sends him a random picture of red Jello. And I'm like, what? But it's like, it's so stupid that I'm like, is that supposed to be a threat?
Yeah, this is going to be you.
Like, what does red Jello have to do with anything? I'm like, I don't. I'm just like, but it was so puzzling that I really like laughed and I enjoyed it because it was so stupid.
I did like that scene.
I do. Yeah, I love everything like that scene.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I like that scene, I'm not even the Jello was whatever, but when it was that scene where he or she is like, I'm watching you, and then he goes shopping with the girl who's just like a cardboard cutout of a person. And they're walking around. It just reminded me of this image online of Shaq, the basketball player, standing.
As opposed to Shaq, the astrophysicist.
Hey, it might be. You never know, dude. Shaq. I knew somebody named Shaq. Actually, he went to our school. I'm surprised you don't remember him. But Shaq is standing behind this tree. And you can clearly tell it's Shaq's big ass standing behind this tree. And he's hiding and he's kind of like sneakily looking. And when the person was like, I'm watching you, I just imagined it being Shaq. Like my brain like literally goes off into other places.
Well, yes, I can totally relate because, like you said, I hope this like gets better in a way and engages my. I don't need it to engage my brain, is what you said. But I think anything can engage my brain. You know, like I could be thinking about this.
Yeah, for sure.
In stuff like the hacker guy, he's always making these perverted jokes, right? And I've been thinking because that's like part of the culture, right? And I've been thinking.
Right.
I had an idea a while back about like everybody. This is going to sound weird. I apologize in advance for any. Anyway, I had this idea about everybody always just being naked, right?
What? Bro, what are you talking about?
Okay.
If everybody was always naked, I feel like you could bypass a lot of issues people have. Because people have issues about like, her breasts are bigger than mine. Oh, she's patting her breasts, or oh, his penis. I want my penis to look like his penis, or people hiding scars and tattoos and, I have this, and they're lying about it. And if everything kind of like an extension of the idea, if everybody just was always honest, then there would be a lot of discomfort, of people like trying to adjust. But eventually, I think that would be better if everybody was just honest, because things would come out that you wouldn't like. But I think.
So you want privacy to cease.
I theorize that maybe that might make for a better world. It's a theory, right? It's a.
You say that, but
I've been thinking. Well, I mean, I don't know how it would work out because you can't actually experiment with that.
Of course you can.
Okay, no, okay.
There are
Okay, you have to watch Junji Ito on, I think it's on Netflix, and there is a episode, and these are horror, mind you. There's a girl, and like there ends up being no privacy, and yeah, it's a horror film, but I highly recommend it. It's only a few minutes long, and you should watch it.
Okay, which episode is it?
I don't
I'll
remember.
look for
It was a while ago.
horror no privacy. That's what I'm gonna type in. And the reason I'm typing this,
Yeah, it was a girl. I think it was a girl and her aunt.
I'm gonna watch this today, and the reason I'm saying that is because there's a YouTube video that I'd like to recommend to the both of you called
Okay.
The Gunslinger, right?
Okay.
And it kind of goes through a little of what I'm talking about. Now, there's nobody naked in the YouTube video, so don't worry about that. But it kind of postulates, and it doesn't end well, I don't think. If I remember correctly how it ends, it doesn't end well. But it still gives me hope that a world of just complete honesty could be possible and feasible. And anyway, so if you're saying no, that just would be not a good idea, full stop, that makes sense, because I've been kind of conflicted, because here's this guy, this hacker guy, and he's what he's doing is kind of at times inappropriate, at times rude, at times just, goofy. But in general, he's being his honest self, right? He's presenting himself as he is.
Hey, there was some great. Can I just say my two favorite quotes from this past few episodes that I thought were just really hilarious and random?
Nope, no time.
Okay.
Yeah, when the part-timer, when her boss comes back, he's like, home again, jiggity jig. I was like, what is this? And it's like, is he an elf? What is going on? He's like this big giant man. I'm like, okay, jiggity jig.
Somebody wrote in the script, like, insert normal dialogue here, and the voice actor kind of panicked.
Right. And then the greatest one, however, and I've definitely said this to my boyfriend a few times now because it's hilarious. And when our Okabe scientist guy, he was like, "What do you speak of, you thumb twiddling milk toast?" I was like, what on earth? What on earth is that? That is hilarious.
I do like milk toast as an insult.
Yes. I was like, I don't know why that's an insult, but I'm going to take it. And I'm like, is this like Hokkaido milk bread?
I've heard that's like an old British thing, because and I used to think it was like, oh, milk toast, because it makes me think of a skinny, like, ineffectual man. But
oh, okay.
like, British people are considered, funny and skinny and whatever, stereotypically.
Right.
But there was a practice, I guess, a long time ago where people would, if you didn't have like a dessert and you were like, oh, I need something, you would just dip your toast in milk.
Oh, that's gross. Also, it makes your milk gross. I don't like milk anyway. It's fine.
Who's your favorite character so far of these episodes? You cannot choose the character
What
that
was
you
the
chose
character I chose
last time.
last time?
I think Stardust chose the girl.
I chose Makise, our redheaded girl.
Oh yeah, so I chose the part-timer then.
So who's it this week?
I liked Ferris this time because we actually got to see more of her character.
Oh yeah,
and,
she had a backstory.
Yeah, and she got her wish granted, I guess. Although we'll never know what it is, which really irritates me. Like, she writes it on a piece of paper, and like, we'll just never know what it is. And like, we don't know why Akihabara changed.
Yeah,
to
and
not being,
why did you keep it
anime
a secret
and
if the past is going to be changed?
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
Do you think she'll be back?
I hope so. I like her a lot, actually. She seems like actually like cute, but also really smart.
I imagine her father as like a Norman Osborn, like secretly the mastermind of some evil company kind of character.
I could see that.
Don't tell Harry. That movie's so bad.
Better than Steins Gate.
Yeah. It was bad, but like there are parts about it that's like,
there are parts I love
about
about that movie. I love.
The fight scenes are still pretty cool. Not in 3.
Are you avoiding the question?
No. Okay. So I'm gonna have a little prelude to my answer. That connects to what I was saying about honesty before, because what you can do, what I think a lot of people don't do, is if somebody like the hacker comes in and says something inappropriate, right? A lot of times people just kind of, ooh, that was weird, and they're just gonna try and pretend it never happened, right? And so if you do that, it keeps happening, right? But what I
Right.
I noticed that Mayuri would every once in a while she would say something, mostly to what's his name, the main character Hoenn, right? When he like came back and he was like staring up and down at Ruka, and everybody's like, hey, stop staring at. And he would say stuff, oh, she's a boy, or and she would be right along. She wouldn't do anything. She wouldn't get up, but she was like, hey, what are you doing? You're being mean, right? And so I think about her when I think about all that. So she's never, if I remember correctly, said anything like that to the hacker guy. The hacker guy says all this stuff, and she's just silent about him.
She just ignores it.
Right. So I imagine if she can say stuff like that to the main character, either she feels closer to the main character, or, which I think is more likely, the hackers mentioned stuff doesn't bother her, and she's actually being honest. And so if she wasn't, and if she spoke out against the hacker, I feel like he would maybe change. Do you think he would change?
I don't know. I don't know that he would. I don't know that he's capable, at least initially. Maybe eventually.
I don't think she's ever gonna reprimand the hacker like she did Okarin, because her and Okarin grew up together.
Oh, I thought they all three grew up together.
I believe it was implied that she's known Okarin the longest. Like in the end of episode 10, she's talking about that time he was sick as a kid and she prayed for him to get better.
Yeah.
And I think with the hacker, they just like went to school together. But as far as her and Okarin, I believe they've known each other much longer.
Also, can we just talk about the fact that he thinks the reason why he's the 1% who can remember timelines is the fact that he got sick as a kid? I'm like, what?
Because it felt the same.
For a scientist, that is like the worst logic.
Well, actually, he said that the reason to him that he survived was because Steins Gate made him survive, right? So if you think of it as like an alien abduction kind of situation, like maybe they made him sick because they implanted something, and that was like him getting over his body, like learning to get over whatever was implanted in him. So that whole situation in his head could just be, that's why he's special, because Steins Gate came to him in the bed, which now when I'm thinking about it could be an elaborate like way to silence a traumatic sexual abuse event.
And it's went to a whole other place just now. We have alien abductions and sexual abuse. This is like
I just got that idea just now when I said that. But I was gonna say Mayuri, but now I'm not so sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Makise, because she's representing America.
Can everyone just like raise your hand if you want to see the version of anime that MadCatMelody is writing with this no privacy and everybody's naked and there's like victims of sexual abuse and alien abductions? Who wants to watch that anime?
I'm sure just everybody's naked got a lot of hands, I'm sure.
Yeah, right?
Have you guys ever seen The Good Place?
Yes, I love
I have
The Good
actually,
Place.
and it's one of my favorite shows ever.
When you were like, who wants to see Melody's anime? I just imagine him being Chi and me being Ted, and I'm just like, oh.
Like, what is this? We went from like anime to talking about an entirely different show because this one is so boring.
Well, this one is one season, right? And so that's why I'm optimistic about.
There's Steins Gate, and then there's like Steins Gate Zero. Then there's
We're not going to do
movies.
that.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm definitely
can't.
not. No. Stardust got her pick, and that's it.
I feel like this is not fair. I feel like I've been duped because the trailer was so good.
You duped yourself. Nobody recommended, neither me or him recommended this.
Have you, Stardust, and this is premature to be talking like this, but have you seen Devilman Crybaby?
No, and I do not want to because it ruined someone close to me, and he has not quite recovered from it.
I still don't completely understand what you mean by the word ruined.
He didn't watch the whole series. He just caught like the last two
How
episodes
is he changed?
that I was.
Is he, vibrating in a corner somewhere in a padded room?
Maybe in a corner of his mind, because every time I bring it up, he's like, I can't. How
does that not infinitely make you more curious?
Here's the thing: if you pick Devilman Crybaby, do you think I want to? You think I want to watch Steins Gate? You think I want to keep watching this? I don't.
Maybe what we should do is like come up with theories on how Steins Gate is going to end, and whoever's theory is closest gets to pick the next anime.
I feel like we've already been doing that.
He's making it into a wager. I'm down. I'll wager.
Oh, wager, because I thought you said rager, and I was like,
Oh no. We shall wager. We shall take bets to see whose theory is closest, and then you can win the next episode choice or the next series choice.
But you got a fair choice. You just got to choose, and now we can only choose for a wager.
Well, because I don't want to choose, like, vote for myself. I want to, let fate decide.
Yeah, I'll guess the ending for fun, but I'm still gonna pick whatever I want to pick when it's my turn.
You gotta do the wager, man. It just makes it fun.
I'm going to do the wager.
Well, I'm on the side that he's crazy, right? And it's all him doing it.
And what do you think, Stardust?
It is a really good point. I'm wondering if there really is an evil corporation, like that he's been talking to his phone this whole time, and it has something to do with the other one.
So what do you think, Stardust?
I really, I think I disagree so much with MadCat that I'm not sure.
Oh, great! What a wager! What a wager!
But I mean, he's definitely crazy. I can't say that he's not, but I feel like I should make like a different kind of guess.
Well, do you agree that...
Suppose like I had to add something to it, maybe?
Would you agree that there's no time travel?
No, I think that there's time travel. I guess I want there to be time travel. I want there to be time travel, and I want the stalker girl, I forget her name, to be the one who's like orchestrating everything, just because I think I like...
she's a secret spy.
Yeah, I want to see her do something in some like interesting way and see why she's so traumatized.
Yeah, I just want there to be an ending. Like, instead of it just being like, oh, that was those crazy couple of days. Now here's the next idea we have, and that's the last episode.
What was that soap opera? They like ended it, and then you found out that the hospital was in a snow globe.
Oh yeah, Fire, St. Elmo's Fire.
That's weird.
I think that Ocarine is the part-time girl's father from the future.
That's Oh yes, that sounds interesting. Now I'm more excited to see the series.
Yeah, he's been talking to his future self.
That's a good theory.
Pulled it right out of my ass.
Someone's gonna have to remember this.
My favorite character, the bald guy's daughter.
The bald guy.
Is anybody not annoying? To be honest with you, like the bald guy's, to me, he's funny. Although that one line that he said that irked me too. When he came back in, he's like, "You were alone with my daughter? You don't know what type of person you are. You can't hide your desires." So he's a pedophile. That's it. That's the joke.
Like what?
Pedophilia.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't a joke.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add for Steins Gate?
I have said all the things that I took notes on.
There's a line. Mayuri at some point says, "Cuteness is justice."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Why'd you bring it up?
I was just curious. It made me think, and I wasn't sure what to think about that. And so I was curious what you guys thought about that.
Cuteness is justice. I mean, it sounds like an attack, like a line from like Precure, like very young shoujo anime. But it's cute. I don't know what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Because what?
No, I was going to say friendship is magic makes sense. It's kind of in the same vein, except cuteness is justice, I feel like, is much more gibberish.
Well, who was she referring to when she said it?
My note says cuteness is justice.
That's all there was. That's all there is.
The transgender girl, when she was cosplaying the outfits and she was embarrassed.
Maybe.
No, she was. I'm telling you, I remember. And then the redheaded chick came in and she's like, well, she's kind of cute because she was like ogling her.
Oh, and I did have something to say about that too. So there's this it was weird, the double standard between the hacker and Ho-In, how she'll be like, hey, don't say that, but the hacker gets to say whatever he wants and she says nothing, right? But it was also interesting how not only does Ho-In grab the girl by her pants, but earlier in a different timeline, Makise also grabs when he's a guy, right? And that wasn't neat. And it's weird because
I don't remember the part at all.
Yeah, because he's like, she's a boy. He's like, she's a boy, and when she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yep, he's a boy. And so she's like, I'm sorry, I have to do this. And she like touches his chest and she's like, oh my God. And then like it cuts to a scene where she's like, looks like she's about to pass out and she's like holding herself on the wall. And Mayuri's like,
I thought it was implied she touched his manhood.
She touched her chest, which is, I feel like, only marginally better than touching the pants. Which I think is, like I was saying, I made Makise my favorite character for the question, partially because I thought it was funny that me and Stardust switched. But
Right.
But it's also kind of ruins that moment because she's the one that tries to attack Ho-Oh for being inappropriate with Ruka, but she's inappropriate with Ruka in that scene. And then when Mayuri is like dressing Ruka, I was thinking, is this better, really? Because she's saying stop and you're stripping her naked. This probably isn't any better. They're all probably just as bad.
Yep. Cuteness is justice. I want to put that on a t-shirt. People are like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think it means?
You know,
it's
you
from
gotta
my
be
favorite
like
anime.
you.
You picked this.
You did this to us.
You're the devil.
I'm gonna get you a shirt too. Don't worry.
I'll wear it too. I'll sleep in it. Guys and ladies.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff that I don't think is explained well. And maybe I can go back and rewatch the 10 episodes and try more to understand it. And maybe if I go out of my way to truly like think about every little thing that they say, maybe I'll find some enjoyment out of it.
Maybe.
Because a lot of stuff they just goes into the ether, right? He just rambles a lot. But maybe all his ramblings really do mean something.
I don't know.
Okay.
I talked a lot today.